Hey guys, what's up? Firefang92. Um, so regionals just ended. I went up for both days, as you can see from this lovely, lovely map. uh, you're gonna have to excuse me because I'm a little bit sick right now. I used to get sick every time I went into New York. Over the past few years it's been a little bit better going for just like one day at a time, but this year I decided I had to go for both days, and lo and behold, I got sick. But I'm gonna try to keep that from affecting me as much as I can. Talk about regionals a little bit while I do this deck profile on Dark Irregulars. It was great, fun experience. My buddy Sam on the channel made fourth. We're all obviously very proud of him. I didn't do so great because mostly of very bad luck, which kind of sucks, but what you gonna do? At least now I can say I routinely beat the guy who made fourth with this deck. So I guess that's enough qualification. Anyway. We're going to jump right into it. This is my Dark Regular Amon build. Starter is, of course, Amon's follower, Barmaid Grace. Counterblast 1, rest her if you have an Amon Vanguard, choose one of your Amons, and give it plus the continuous effect that it gets plus 1k for every card in Soul. Soul Charge 2 when you activate the effect. She is awesome primarily because every turn she's a soul charge, which really helps you set up for your bosses and shit. And also, that plus 1k is not to be underestimated. We're going to move on to Grade 3s. For this build, I went with a focus on Demon Marquis Amon Reverse. Primarily just for that cross-ride body, because it's a very easy to activate cross-ride with your mass soul charging and whatnot. And if you can sit on a 13k body while you're striding, that's a helpful advantage. And Amon Boss gives you access to the Amon support, which is really nice right now. That's all I can say. His skill, Lock 1 at Limit Break 4. He gets plus 1k for every card in Soul, and if there's 6 or more in Soul, he gets crit. Obviously, Barmaid's a really nice target for him, but you don't really use him for his ability too much. Next up, we got 3 copies of Demon World Marquis Amon. What he does is nothing. You never use this effect. Next up, we have a couple of techs in the form of Harlot Vampire and Amon's leader, Astaroth. The one Harlot is in here because, well, I play the Stride Fodder at a couple of copies, and that means if I have only him in my hand to ride, I can ditch him, get him, and have a better ride than this thing. And Astaroth is in here because you do go through the deck kind of quickly in this deck, so sometimes if your opponent has like a god hand and can survive into late game, the Legion can help you hang on. Moving on to Grade 2s. The biggest point that I've changed about this deck since I last showed it off, which made it a lot better, is I bumped up my Flying Librarians to 4 copies. She's too good. Especially even in Amons and whatever else. Definitely run as many of her as you can, because she's great, she makes the deck. At She Break 1, Counterblast 1, on call, Soul Charge 2, if you have 6 or more in Soul, draw a card, if you have 10 or more in Soul, unflip. That unflip is kind of silly because you're counterblasting 1 to unflip, but you can say counterblast another copy of her or Harlot or whatever non-Amon you have in the damage, and unflip an Amon, so you have more as special. But she's really great for the draw, primarily, because defense in Dark Regulars is hard to come by, and especially in this current G-Era deck, if you can survive, you will kill them. Your opponent cannot be defensive enough to stall out Dark Irregulars, because you are too big for any deck. So if you can survive long enough to get into your win condition, you will win. Thus, draws are awesome. We've got 4 copies of Amon's Follower Hell's Draw. On call, if you have an Amon Vanguard, Soul Charge 2. Soul Charging is really important right now. Really want to get to that 15 by turn 4. Next up, we have 3 copies of Amon's Follower Hell's Nail. A special counterblast in Amon on attack, Soul Charge 3. To get to 15 by turn 4, you have to average 3 to 4 Soul Charges a turn, and you will miss it on turn 1, unfortunately. So she fulfills your need for Soul Charging in a turn by herself, so everything on top of that is just helping you make up for turns where you miss it. So that is why she is excellent. Next up into grade 1s, obviously we have the 4 copies of the Perfect Guard. I went with Flag Breaker because you can afford to be dropping PGs on rear guards in this deck because they are your only guard. So even if it's like Dote or whatever, you kind of just sort of have to eat the fact that they're getting the plus and reserve all your guard for situations in which you might die. Because again, they cannot build up enough cards to survive you. So you're just going to have to let that rear guard take it to the face and let them restand. Then, if they try to hit a crit into your face, Flag Breaker. And obviously, getting some counterblast back, pretty nice. Not really necessary in Dark Regulars, but still, pretty nice. Next up, we have 4 copies of Doreen the Thruster. Amazing card, been amazing in Dark Irregular since set 3. Every time a card is placed into your soul during your main phase, she gets 3k, and that stacks, so essentially you are looking to turn her into a massive, massive booster. Like 24 to 30. Very cool. Next up, we have 4 copies of Amon's Follower Hell's Deal. Same as Hell's Draw, but at a grade 1. Again, Soul Charging, very important right now. Next, we have 2 copies of Succubus of Pure Love. A lot of people like to give this spot to the Limit Break Enabler. I found that I'd rather just stride more often. So I went with this, and it can also get me the search for Charlotte so that I don't end up riding base Amon. So, there you go. Next up into grade 0s, we have the staple for heal, because you want to live, and she helps you live. Next up, we have 4 of the fun new crit trigger, Amon's Follower, Grusam. Counterblast 1 card with Amon in his name when he's placed in the soul. If you have 6 or more in soul, you may pay the cost. If you do, your opponent chooses a card to retire. Just a very nice little 1 counterblast for a -1 to opponent at any given time. Really not much else to say about him. What I will say about, because some people do like to complain about with Dark Regulars, you soul charge triggers too much, and that's kind of reflected in the fact that they're now giving us a trigger with an ability when soul charged. But if you're looking to go into Dark Irregulars or you play Dark Irregulars, do not worry about that, okay? Statistics dictate that the triggers and everything else are going to go into the soul at the same rate. You're playing the exact same game you would be playing if you were just playing something that wasn't going to the bottom of its deck. Don't worry about it. Next up, we have a choice that kind of kills me a little bit inside. I went with 12 crit. Usually I hate 12 crit, especially in any deck that lacks defense. But it kind of sort of had to do it in this deck, because if your opponent doesn't get to 4 by turn 4, there's not a lot you can do against them. So you really need to be hitting the crits. Also, the draws were making me deck out too fast, and I had to go into Astroth and lose the cross-ride body. Whole big mess, whole big mess. So, 12 crits, unfortunately. It's just the way I found this deck runs best. But it kills me a little bit inside. Next up, G units. First, we have Great Demon Soulless Demagogue. When a card is placed into Soul, he gets the continuous effect that every unit in your front row gets plus 1k, and that stacks, so for every card that goes into the Soul, everything gets plus 1k. A lot of people sort of drifted away from this guy. Don't do that. Like I said, you have to get your opponent to 4 damage, or else you're gonna have a bad time. And he does that really, really well, because you can set up 2 or 3 soul charges, pump your front row by 4 to 6, go 21, 40 some odd, 21, or with this, you get the point. It's going to be some very large rows. They're going to have to take a couple hits and go up to 4. I would like to play more of him, except you can't often really get the rearguard presence to make him worthwhile, so unfortunately, I still do have to rely on a couple copies of Love Tempest Kiss Kill Lyra. On hit, Soul Charge 2, if you have 6 or more in Soul, draw a card. No one who knows anything about Dark Irregulars is going to even consider letting her hit. She is basically worthless. Only go into her if you have to. Don't let people tell you she's as great as they think she is, because she's not. Because your opponent feels free to drop perfects because they know he's coming. Abominable One, Giles. Act, flip 1 up. He gets Act G Persona. He gets plus 10 if you have 10 or more in Soul. Glory Effect if you have 15 or more in Soul. And Crit plus 1 if you have 2 or more face-up G units. So he's really fantastic, and he's the reason you need to be soul charging like mad right now, because if you go into him turn 4, you've essentially got a kill. If you can put your opponent at 4 damage, which 12 crit. And between him and the starter and Doreen, that is why there is no deck that will be able to outlive you. Because if you continue stacking power on him and he's a 51 by himself, or 60 some odd with Doreen, there literally isn't enough guard in a deck to survive him twice. And that's why we need the 12 crit and Soulless Demon, so your opponent doesn't try to just stay at 2 and rope-a-dope you. Next up, one Blizza. Again, don't leave home without him. Though, in this deck he has been seeming a little bit underwhelming because you can get that power easier ways. So I've been considering swapping him for another Demagogue or one of the Amon Stride, though probably a Demagogue because the Amon Stride is just completely useless. Okay, so that was my Dark Irregular deck. Definitely very fun, and it is actually really good right now, despite the fact that I went out round 3. Again, I just got bad luck, what can you say? Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna go rest my throat now. Fang92 signing out.